Hello, Burst users. My name is Florence Nguyen Quang, and I am with the Center for Early Reading at Amplify. This session will last about 45 minutes and will help you understand the responsibilities of a Burst Intervention Coordinator and help you get Burst started at your school. The Intervention Coordinator Responsibilities is the second module in the Intervention Coordinators series. This module assumes that you have watched the Burst Overview module. If you haven't yet watched that module, go ahead and take the time to view it prior to viewing this video. Also, make sure that you have your handout ready. We will use it a lot today and going forward. If you are watching this module, chances are that you were chosen by your school leader to serve as the intervention coordinator. We are first going to go over your role and why it is so important to getting students caught up to grade level. Then we will create a launch plan with tasks to complete prior to burst starting and calendar key items that will keep the machine going throughout the school year. Let's take a moment to quickly review what we learned in our burst overview session. How do we know burst reading catches students up? As we shared during our burst overview session, schools that had the most success growing students were those that implemented burst with fidelity. We all strive to implement programs with fidelity, but sometimes the nitty-gritty details hold us back. Here are some of the nitty-gritty details that affect student progress. How you choose to group, whether it's within class or across classes, might affect your ability to form homogeneous groups. How you adjust class and staff schedules will determine whether you serve every student in need and whether interventionists have enough time to pick up and drop off students without cutting into the 30 minutes of instructional time. Just 7 minutes of time lost to instruction translates to 25% less burst instruction, so sweating the small stuff matters. Well, actually, the small stuff is really big stuff. How soon you get intervention started at the beginning of the year affects the number of days and weeks students get burst, and that actually drastically affects the odds that they will catch up. There are a lot of other details. When students should be practicing with Boost, who should progress monitor, when, what day of the week, and how do we ensure that interventionists know how to deliver burst lessons? Which is why we ask, why might your school want to have someone serve as an intervention coordinator? You are probably familiar with the saying, there are too many cooks in the kitchen. When we ask about how they run their program so successfully, a kindergarten teacher in Louisiana said, these issues all tie together. We need somebody coordinating, or else it ain't gonna get done. The schools that get the best results with bursts have concluded they need one person in charge of coordinating and planning for their team. Without having a coordinating force, they have noticed that they are not able to successfully work through all of the details. You were selected as the intervention coordinator because you have strong attention to detail and love scheduling and getting into the operational details. Here are some of your duties as the burst intervention coordinator. You're going to create a launch plan. Your school lead has already made some key decisions, such as shortening the benchmark windows to get burst started as soon as possible. Up next, we will review some of these key decisions and add them to your launch plan. You're going to determine which students will get burst and group students using the burst software. You're also going to work on scheduling and ensure that every group has a time in the day when they meet, a place where they're going to meet, and an interventionist to deliver the instruction. You're going to schedule progress monitoring and ensure that PM gets done so that the burst algorithm can generate the next burst lessons. You will also schedule and get Boost up and running, working with either just the interventionists or the general education teachers, depending on how you set up Boost. And you will also troubleshoot issues as they arise. You should now have a better idea of what your role entails. You will get more training and support with assessments for burst, grouping and scheduling, and setting up progress monitoring in the next set of modules you will watch. Let's spend some time building out your launch plan to get burst started and to keep it going strong over the school year.
We're going to start building our launch plan. As you watch your next modules, you will add to your launch plan, so keep it handy. Here are the steps we will follow. I will guide you through your handout. First, we are going to review our example launch plan to get an idea of what the finished product will look like. Then we will go into the details. We've built a list of recommended tasks. We will take a look at them and see if anything is missing for your own school context. Once we have built our list, we will identify the persons responsible to make sure the task gets completed. For some of these tasks, you may not yet know who that person will be and might determine the right person after the next module. That's why you will keep this plan handy and update it as you go through the modules. Sequence the tasks, determine how long each will take, and set due dates. You might also update these dates after your next module. Finally, you will calendar the key tasks.
So at a high level, here are some of the items that will impact your burst launch. For the trainings, we need to make sure that all involved with burst will watch their respective modules and be ready to start burst. We are also going to focus on assessments. There are some assessments that need to be completed prior to getting burst started. There are also some assessments that will keep burst going. Progress monitoring assessments, which will be administered every other week. You'll learn more about that in your next module. A lot of details will go into scheduling and making sure that all burst groups have an interventionist and finding the right time to pull out students, as well as communication to general education teachers who need to know which students will be in burst, who will deliver the instruction, what times, and in what rooms. From here on out, we're going to refer to your handout.
We're going to spend time building out your launch plan. When you download the handout for this session, you will notice that it is a Word doc version, which enables you to edit it and save it as you go. We're going to refer to pages 2 through 8 of your handout to go over the example launch plan. There are key tasks that you will need to complete in order to get burst up and running. There are 2 different ways in which you can organize your launch plan. You can use the table template that we've provided and edit it in Word after you download this module's handout, or you can use a task list and write out the tasks right onto your school calendar on the due dates. We used a table template to organize the task by due date, and then we jotted down each task onto the school calendar, which is usually displayed in the office. We found this option worked best for us, so we will take you through it. Go ahead and pick the format that best works for you after you see this example. Then you will calendar all of the important things that will keep the machine going and share the calendar with other people who are responsible to complete the task. We're going to start by looking at pages 2 and 3 of your handout to review an example launch plan and get a better idea of the finished product we are aiming to create. Bear in mind that this launch plan was updated and completed as we watched the rest of the Intervention Coordinator modules. The first thing you should notice here is that we put the actual names of people and not just their titles in the column that is listed as persons to involve. For example, you won't see principal, teachers, or interventionist in this column. You see that we have actual names of people. As you gain a better understanding of some of your other responsibilities, such as scheduling, you will be able to better plan out how long it will take you to adjust and update the schedules. You see here that there are quick tasks, such as gathering the school-wide schedules, which probably will not take long to complete. This is why we have set these up for the very beginning of the school year. However, when we planned for scheduling burst and adjusting interventionist schedules, we gave ourselves a few days to complete the tasks, especially since this is the first time that you will go through adjusting current schedules and scheduling burst. There are probably other tasks on here which do not make complete sense to you right now, such as determining whether or not to include the burst vocabulary strand, or planning out the details of progress monitoring. In the next module, you will learn more about assessment and burst, progress monitoring, who is best qualified to do it, and when you should schedule it. If you look at the next few pages, you will see that we have transferred the tasks in the launch plan to the school calendar. This type of calendar is often posted in the main office or in a place that is accessible to all school staff. Having the tasks in the school calendar allows us to visually see how long each task might take and how much time we might have left to complete it. We usually cross out the days in the calendar to keep track of our progress. If you look through pages 4 through 8, you will get a good idea of what the beginning stages of getting bursts up and running look like, as well as tasks we complete throughout the year to keep it going.
So let's go a little bit more into detail and take a look at the suggested tasks to complete prior to launching Burst. Here we have a list. We've built this list to help you get started. And the first thing that you will need to do is finish your training by watching the rest of the Burst modules for intervention coordinators. And after you watch those modules, some of the tasks on here will make a lot more sense. You'll be able to update your launch plan. You will want to schedule all benchmark and baseline assessments to be completed as soon as possible so that you can work on grouping students. Bear in mind that the first time you group students and schedule Burst, it might take you a few days to work out the kinks of scheduling, so plan for that in your Burst plan. As you can see, you will need your school calendar, as we mentioned earlier, with the holidays, any PD days, any other important and relevant dates to build out your launch plan. You will also need to get all of your other school-wide schedules, including each grade's daily instructional schedule, as well as staff schedules. We're going to take you through how to adjust your each grade's daily instructional schedules in the grouping and scheduling module to make sure that Burst fits into the plan here. Also, you will need to include any field trips that are already scheduled, monthly assemblies as well. If they're not scheduled yet, try your best to avoid scheduling them during Burst intervention. Also, look out for any trainings or PD that your interventionist might need to attend and plan accordingly. Think about the communication that needs to go out to teachers to get Burst started. For example, a list of which students will be pulled out along with a schedule of when and where students will go. You can go ahead and include the Burst start and end dates, as well as adjusted benchmark windows and progress monitoring schedules. Take a look at this list. Can you think of any other items that we may not have included in this task list or other items that might be specific only to your own school setting?
Press pause to look over the list and come back when you're ready.
Next up, we're going to work on key tasks to keep Burst up and running.
This will be on page 10 of your handout.
Let's think about the tasks that will keep the machine going. These are the tasks that we will repeat throughout the year. Remember that Burst uses progress monitoring data to generate new lessons that match students' evolving needs. This is done once every other week, so once during the 10-day Burst cycle, and therefore it's extremely important to ensure that progress monitoring is done every other week so that Burst can continue to give you new lessons. You're also going to learn a little bit more about this in your next module. Throughout the year, as students progress through the Burst reading skills continuum, you will regroup them. You will also learn more about grouping in your last module. There's also another opportunity for significant regrouping at the middle of the year. You may need to move students in or out of Burst as their benchmark data suggests that they either need Burst or no longer need intervention. You will also keep track of students' progress and identify students who might need a Tier 3 intensity or a different program to catch up to their grade level peers. You can plan meetings with school leaders and teachers to determine what the next steps are for these students who might need Tier 3. Throughout the year, you will also support interventionists to troubleshoot any issues as they arise. And also, don't forget to set an end of the year DIBELS benchmark window if your school lead hasn't done it yet. Can you think of any other items we might want to include in this task list?
Press pause to look over the list and come back when you're ready. You now have two lists of tasks, one to complete in order to get Burst going and one to implement throughout the year to keep Burst going. In your handout, On page 11 and 12, we have included a shell launch plan, which includes all of the important key tasks that we've identified. Since you've downloaded the handout as a Word doc, you can make any changes or add items that are applicable to your school settings straight on this plan.
As you build your launch plan, make sure to have your school calendar handy and plan out an appropriate time frame to get each task completed and include the due date in your launch plan. Think of the right person to get the task done and assign them the task and be sure that they know about it. Then check in with them prior to the due date to make sure that they're on track to get the task completed. Finally, you're going to calendar the rest of your post-launch tasks. Now that you've learned a bit more about some of the key pieces it takes to run Burst and how your role fits in the big picture, take a moment to think about your goal as the intervention coordinator for this school year and how you will ensure that you meet this goal. Record this on your handout. You can check back on your progress toward this goal throughout the school year. Your goal might even evolve as the year progresses.
Pause to spend a few moments reflecting on your goal and come back to the video when you're ready.
Wow, you got a lot done in this session. You learned all about your new role with Burst. You started planning out your launch plan to get Burst up and running and calendared other important tasks to keep Burst going strong this year. Here are your next steps. Schedule time to watch your last two modules. Keep your launch plan and calendar handy as you go through these modules. You will update these as you learn more about assessments and grouping and scheduling.